Hello, welcome back to Mark's Garden UK. I don't know if you can hear me over the noise of this ride-on mower, so let me turn it off. And this is the wildlife pond which I've just installed in this, the wildlife corner of my garden, and I've deliberately, as you've just seen, left a path exactly wide enough for me to get my ride-on mower around the circumference of this pond. And that's wonderful because one of my objectives is to be able to come round the pond and look in and see it. And I've left a strip of long grass there right around the periphery, and there's long grass around here at the back, and here's my wildlife log pile. Down there is my wildlife hibernaculum. There's my buddleia butterfly bush. There's a twig pile for wildlife, and all the way along the back of here on this mound, which is actually the soil I dug out of the big hole, is a wildflower meadow, and I've just sown that and it's all coming into life. And that's wonderful because that meets my objectives, but there's a problem. What about the objectives of the wildlife? Let me tell you what I mean. How does the wildlife get from there to the water in the pond without crossing this short grass, which would leave it too exposed to some predators? So I've come up with an ingenious solution, and that is an underground wildlife corridor that I can ride over on my ride-on mower. Let me show you. And of course, it's important when you're doing a wildlife garden and any feature in a wildlife garden to think about your own objectives, because you're the one that wants to enjoy it, but also the objectives or the needs of the wildlife. And of course, you need to try and make those dovetail together. And that's why I've thought of this idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dig a trench about the width of this flag, and I'm going to put bricks in the bottom in this formation, and then obviously, as you've probably guessed by now, I'm going to lay that on top, and that is going to be about the same ground level as the grass. So I'll be able to ride over that on my mower. I've put bricks down the middle there to support the centre, just in case the weight of the mower risks cracking the flag. And as you can see there, that will give the wildlife two little corridors. Because it's dark, nothing will grow in there. It will be a dark little corridor, a damp, dark little corridor that the wildlife can enter at one end from the long grass at the far side, go underneath and exit into the water. And I'll hide that end of it with one of the rocks on the circumference of my pond. Now, these flags, they're not particularly aesthetically pleasing, so they're not going to enhance the look of the pond. This one, happily, has grown some lovely moss on top of it. But you can't avoid the fact that they do look like concrete, but there has to be a little bit of compromise. What I'm going to do, in order to try and make them slightly more aesthetically pleasing, is I'm going to riddle some soil on top, and that will kind of disguise them, and it will just look like a soily path in the end. So let's get on with the job. Now, I mentioned in the thumbnail to this video that Pondkeeper, who supplied the pond liner and who are also supplying my pond plants, have given us a discount code, so you can get 10% off your first order. I'm going to put the discount code in the description box below this video. I'm quite happy to endorse Pondkeeper. They've been very, very generous with me and very supportive. They've got a phone line you can ring for help and support, and it's real people, so you can ring them and get advice. If you look at their website, there's a massive range of stock, including pond plants and equipment, and most of the stuff will be delivered next day. Of course, some of the pond plants, because they come from different nurseries, there might be a slight delay. You can't expect them the next day. And I've got my pond plants on the way to me, and I'm going to do a video when I plant them in the pond. And I've also given quite a lot of thought as to how to choose pond plants, and I'll be covering that in a video soon as well. So don't forget, have a look at Pondkeeper. But let's get back to this job, the matter in hand, which is digging a trench for this underground subterranean wildlife superhighway from the back of the garden into the wildlife pond. So I've decided that my underground superhighway is going to go from here, the very long bit where the log pile is and the open fields are behind. There's a big hedge, so there's a corridor of safety bringing wildlife in to the wildlife area and the wildlife pond. That grass will stay long, those nettles will stay there, the wildlife log pile will stay there. So I need to bridge this gap here, which if a newt or a frog or a toad were to crawl across that to reach the pond, they would be exposed to predators, and there are predators out there at night looking to eat frogs and toads and newts. So I'm giving them a safe pathway through, and I'm going to disguise this end of it with this big slab of stone here. So I'm just going to put them in place now so that we can see and measure up where exactly they're going to go. And I've already checked these are wide enough for the wheels of my wheelbarrow, sorry, not wheelbarrow, lawnmower, to pass over. Sometimes you get a bit confused with your words when you're talking and doing a job at the same time. So that's going to be there. They are going to be sunk into the ground. I'm now going to get my spade and cut out the turf. Now I've got a brilliant and innovative use for this turf. It's not going to be wasted. I've come up with an idea how to plant the pond marginal plants around the edge of my pond, and it's a bit of an experiment. I'm going to dig out some turf, turn it upside down, plant the marginals into it, put it in the shallow water and then cover it with gravel, so it becomes a little mound of soil inside the water. So I won't actually see a pond plant pot, I'll just see a mound of gravel with plants going out of it, and as those plants grow and spread, they can grow and spread into the turf that's in the water. But that's for a future video. Of course, it'll be about pond plants. Look out for it on my channel, and subscribe and hit the notifications bell. I keep saying that, but it does benefit me if you subscribe, and I do appreciate it. So there we go. Let's get the spade, let's dig the trench, save the turf for the marginal pond plants, put the bricks in, and then before we know it, we'll have a wildlife superhighway going from there to there. So there you go. I now have a wonderful new subterranean wildlife superhighway, so that the wildlife can come from the surrounding fields, along the hedge, underground and into the water and back again in safety. And I can continue to walk round and go over it in my mower. Now it might look a little bit rough around the edges, but once the grass encroaches and starts to grow into this soil here, and once I plant my pond plants into the perimeter of the pond, it will blend in beautifully and the wildlife will come and go. Now, talking of pond plants, don't forget that 10% first time order discount code for Pond Keeper Limited, which is in the description box below. And the pond plants which they're supplying are arriving at the weekend. So subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and you'll be able to see me planting up my new wildlife pond. You might think that this would be a barren pond because there's no plants in it just yet, but I've already seen water beetles, lots of little insect larvae in the water, and pond skaters. So wildlife just arrives. It's wonderful. I'll see you soon for some more wildlife pond adventures. Bye for now.